Hello and welcome to Two Girls in a Pot. I'm Sharon,
I'm Christy.
and we are so excited today.
We have a couple of guests on with us today. Pro MMA wrestling fighters with UFC, Raquel Rocky and Tecia the Tiny Tornado Pennington. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And for anybody out there who doesn't know about UFC, I don't know how you wouldn't, but we're big. We tend to follow a little bit. Raquel, you're ranked number 2, bantamweight division. Hopefully you're going to be able to fight for the title soon.
We shall see.
Fingers crossed, people. And Tecia, you just found out you got dropped from the rankings, but in your defense, you were a little busy the last year. What was that going on there?
Yes, this little Winnie the Pooh right here was born. But yeah, I just found out I was dropped from the rankings. Prior to having her, I was number 7, and then during my pregnancy, I dropped to 10, and then one day they just dropped me off in the last month. It's really weird because there's like at least 4 or 5 other female athletes who've had babies and they didn't get dropped. So I messaged the matchmaker right away. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, you've been inactive. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. But it's honestly all a media thing. It's not even them who do the rankings. It's all media stuff. So I'm planning on coming back, and then I'll, make my way to my spot again.
Okay, awesome. So talk a little bit, because you guys have this beautiful, beautiful little girl here. You've been together 7 years.
Yes.
Okay. And so what made you decide you wanted to be moms? Because, you're kind of at the height of your career right now, and you were actively moving up the ranks too. So what kind of brought that on for you guys?
I think it's something that we've always wanted. I come from a huge Hispanic family, and I've always wanted kids. Being a professional athlete, and especially a female, it's really hard to know when to take that time off and to actually make different changes in life or take the next steps to the things that we want. And it's been a talk that Tecia and I have had for many, many years. But like you said, she's been active, I've been active. So it was just like, well, we're so close. This isn't the right time. And then I ended up doing an egg retrieval in the beginning of 21. In 21, I had some time off. So I went through and did the egg retrieval. And then, with that and the hormones and everything that went on with my body, that took time for the 7 weeks that we did it for, and then going through the procedure. And then I had a long time to lose the weight that I gained from that. And then with Tecia, we ended up fighting on the same card. And she was just like, we were both just at a point that it was like, we really want a family. And so she was like, if I win this fight, then obviously I'm right there. I want to keep going. If I don't win this fight, then I would actually like to try. And I actually kind of questioned that, just because, being an athlete as well, I was like, well, are you sure? Because it's going to take time off. And she was like, no, this is where my heart is at. And even though she won the fight that night, but the judges gave it away, she was just like, it was like, get back in there, get active. And she was like, no, I actually want to, like I said, I want to do this. So that's kind of how it came about. Here, take her thing.
Yeah. So do you feel like, she's absolutely beautiful. So for you guys, it was the right choice.
Oh yeah. So when I did decide to do it or whatnot, literally a month later, they offered me a fight. And I'm like, well, I just started this IVF process, and I want to continue with it. At that point, I could have stopped and said, yes, I'll take the fight. But we already decided, went to the doctors and told them we're going to start in September. The fight would have been in October, but they give you a 2 months head time or whatever. And I was just like, no, I'll take the fight when I'm done. And he said, okay, I understand. Good luck with you guys. I wish you guys the best, blah, blah, blah. If she didn't work, IVF doesn't always work. I did plan on trying again, but I at least wanted to try once. And she worked, and she became, a little person in my belly. And then I actually, when we decided to, and then when they did offer that fight to Tecia, it was kind of crazy, because I was like, well, why not one more fight? And I don't know. I think as a person, as an athlete, I was still just trying to push her. And then at the same time, but it was my heart was torn, but I was leaning more toward the athlete side, just because I don't know. I personally am not ready to carry yet. I also want to carry. So it's kind of funny, because now, like you said, hopefully the world title shot next. That's the ultimate goal. I want to defend it once or twice. And then after that, I want to move on to the next chapter in life. And so it'll be my turn to carry and grow our family. But at that time, I was just like, Well, you should take it in consideration. She just looked at me like I was crazy and she's like, I want to try. Got it.
You've kind of had to persevere through a few little things, broken back, then you broke your leg. So I guess that kind of makes sense. You know, when you work really hard to get back to that athletic place, it's like you almost don't want to give it up because it's been such a battle for you in some ways.
Yeah, exactly. You know, after my last layoffs, that was just 18 months long and coming back with total reconstructive surgery, just everything that I had to do with all of that, it kind of pushed me into a place that like having too much time off, I got really stubborn and I just wanted to feel like myself again. And so even though my body wasn't ready, I like pushed myself and then I broke my leg. They called me for the world title fight. So I signed for that. Was originally supposed to fight in December. In October, I ended up breaking my leg, ended up with a lot of nerve damage. But because of that long layoff prior, it was like, man, I was barely getting back to being myself. Here comes this. And so then I ended up taking the fight in May. And like physically, I wasn't ready. Emotionally, like I just was all over the board. Mentally, it was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And I got really stubborn. And then the world title fight played out how it went. You know, she attacked my leg in the first round and it was just like, that was not a fight. Like I was completely in defense mode. And then I caused more physical damage for myself. And so it set me back. And so now just getting wiser, it's like, okay, but then with that, like, I also knew it would take time off and we're not all like Tecia. Like, I wouldn't bounce back the same. So it was like, all right, I'm going to carry like, and even our coaches have said it, like, I would probably be done. Like, I just have a different physique and whatnot. And then on top of that, just taking the time off. So I just want to make sure I'm at that next stage to want to take that time off. And with her, I think she's been fighting for so long that I was just like, okay, maybe she's ready for the break. Cause Tecia was that athlete that like, even though she wasn't fighting, she would still live in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was good for her, but she's definitely had her struggles through the time off.
Well, and I think for you, even, you know, you decide to take time off because you want to have a baby, which you think, hey, that's pretty a natural progression, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't think you were thinking when you got pregnant that you would be dropped from the ranks or things like that. So for you now, you've got to get back to that mental place where you want to be back fighting and being that athlete again.
Oh yeah, I've wanted to be back since the day I said I wanted to be pregnant. You know,
We got pregnant and she's like, I miss the gym. And I was like,
I've been nurse wife since I was 5, so it's like all that I've known, you know. And then obviously I wanted to get pregnant and everything, so I would never, you know, take away from anything like that. But like the first time when I was pregnant, I went into the gym. Going to the gym, I cried because I was just like, man, I don't know, it's gonna be different. And then I'm watching her get ready for a fight, and this makes me very sad. So I cried a few times. Then eventually I got over it, and I would be able to watch her, you know, cheer her on. And now that I'm like getting back into the gym slowly, it's a little bit different, you know, like I don't want to rush it. My goal is for April of next year to have a fight, but if my body's not ready, I'm not going to do it because, you know, I got like one more run in it. I'm not 20 anymore, you know, I'm 34, but I do feel like I can do some damage in the division again. So I just want to make the right choices, and I would like to carry again. So the next time I carry, I'll be done fighting. So we'll see how that goes. And I told Raquel she has 3 years, you know, if she doesn't carry by 3 years, I'm going to carry again. So
Yeah.
she's next, or I'll go next again.
So you're looking to have a big family.
well, we initially only wanted 2 babies. And then with IVF, like I did the egg retrieval and they ended up taking 29 eggs and 3 healthy embryos were created from that. So obviously the only options are to either transfer and make the attempt to donate to research, put up for adoption, or destroy. And like for us personally, like those are none of the options besides actually trying. And then Tecia still wants one with her own egg. So we could take the chance on having 4 babies. Like we have no clue what's gonna happen, but it turned out to be more than what we thought. And when all this was coming to life, Tecia was like, let me transfer 2. I was like, we're not going from being like fur baby moms to also to turning around and having little human babies, and you're trying to have twins. Absolutely not.
Well, you know, go big, you know.
Sounds ambitious.
Yeah, I'm glad it was fun.
Well, I think the thing is, one of the cool things about watching you guys, and we really have watched you guys in your career, is you're always there for each other.
Yeah.
You know, if you're out there fighting, she's there. You know, before you were pregnant, you were actually in her corner, and you know, vice versa. So what is that like now when you got this little one? Is she going to be in there with everything too?
So we have actually taken her to UFC events already.
Well, it's
first,
a different one.
yeah.
Mama's fighting.
yeah. So when she fights her, I bet, of course, yes, she's gonna be there. But after the last event, I think we decided that Alea's gonna wait a few more, you know, a little while before she goes back again, because she was really fussy at the last one. The first one she was fine, but maybe because she was just littler and she slept a lot. Yeah, when we fight, she'll go, but besides that, she's probably not going to any events anytime soon.
Yes.
But, we'll be there cheering her on.
So you know what's interesting, because you're both so athletic, is that when you see her, do you guys already have these visions in your head? Look at Raquel's are like maybe one or two.
No, I just like, I mean, I've been an athlete since I was 5 years old. You know, my mom, she was a gymnastics coach for over 40 years. Like, I've tried every sport in the book, and it's crazy because I always thought I would be a professional athlete. My biggest dream was basketball, and then I messed up my back and stuff. And I got into fighting. I never thought it would be that. But for me, like, you know, we want to support her in whatever she does. That's the biggest thing. And so, like, I don't know what that direction is going to look like. I do hope it's athletics. And like I tell Tecia all the time, you know, we go to our little cousins' games, and sometimes they don't have a game because they don't have coaches. And I was like, well, Leia's never going to have to worry about that, because the sports that I don't even know, I will learn to coach. Like, I'm coaching everything. But I want her in something. People ask us the question all the time, like, in 2050, is she going to be the UFC champion? I prefer that she's actually not a fighter. It's just a lot. And like, you know, before fighting, I was going to school. I wanted to be a doctor. So I'm big on like health and stuff. And like Tecia and I, we go get brain scans and stuff done every year. And we follow up just to, because I mean, we're really, you know, cautious, great in this passion and stuff, but I want longevity.
Right.
And so just like now being a mom and like seeing her, like, I do want her to be an athlete, but I would love it to be not fighting. I don't want her to beat herself up like that. It's a lot on the body, but that's just my take.
Well, do you feel, and is that your same philosophy?
Yeah, when I look at it in the long run, of course, I would love her to be an athlete, whichever she chooses. If she doesn't want it, she wants to be a band geek, whatever you want to call it, or she likes it, or she wants to do some, you know, arts and crafts, stuff like that. We'll be there for whatever. But as far as fighting, like, I would love her to learn self-defense and be in some type of martial arts, whether that be jiu-jitsu, karate, whatever. Whether she needs to stay in it forever, no. I just want to learn to defend herself. You know, she's a female. Unfortunately, we live in a not a kind world still. But fighting wise, I don't know, because like my brother used to do karate and jiu-jitsu as well. And like he was like 14 or 15 when he first did his first tournament in jiu-jitsu, and he got armbarred, and I literally cried. If I cried doing my brother, like our godson, he does karate, and in his first tournament, just looking at him when I showed up, and he was just in his gear, I would like start crying. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't imagine, because at that point, you know, we didn't know she would come.
Let's say we're learning like the culture. Like my mom was always like, one day you're going to understand. I'm starting to understand like what I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was fun and games. And now I'm like, I get it. And she's not even there yet, but I get it.
Well, you know, you said something, you're right. A lot of you both are in a sport that, you know, is not really, that doesn't have a long history with women in it.
Yes.
Because you've kind of been there since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was
You
one
know?
of the first 10 women to ever sign with the UFC.
Yeah.
I definitely think we're pioneers of the sport. I think we got into the sport right at the optimal time, if you want to say, because the UFC prior to, you know, us, even when we were starting as amateurs, the UFC wasn't existent for women until Ronda Rousey came around in 2013. And then Raquel's weight class got in the UFC first through the Ultimate Fighter, and she was signed after the Ultimate Fighter as one of the first 10 women. Then the next year, like there was rumors about what weight class it would be, and it was 115. And I was like, awesome, if it's 115, I'm gonna try out or whatever. And then I got in the Ultimate Fighter as well from Invicta, and just, you know, kind of rolled off from there. And fortunate enough, we were great when we needed to be great to get into the UFC. And, you know, now 10 years later, you know, we're still fighting in the UFC and still on the top of the food chain, I guess you can say. a lot of the girls have dropped since, you know, the Ultimate Fighter time. And I'm grateful that both of us are still here doing it and still making life.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's, interesting because we really work on our podcast about how do we empower women, and minorities and things like that. Because sometimes you don't have that representation, and then you get that representation, but then that also means you have to be role models. How are you guys with that?
I'm okay with it. You know, I like using my platform for different things. I like being open about things. At one point, you told us when we walked in that you are a mental health therapist, sorry if I say it incorrectly. I was scared for so long to talk about my mental health. And then a few years back on World Mental Health Day, Robert Whitaker shared his story on depression and stuff. And I was like, man, if he can share his story, I'm going to share mine. So for the past, I think like 3 or 4 years, I've been very open about my mental health and things like that. So I like using my platform for, people to look up to me and to see like I'm in the same boat as you are, even though I'm on TV and doing these crazy things. At the end of the day, we're human, there's nothing that can affect us that affects you,
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I really appreciate, being in this business as long as I have, is that when we have people who come forward and say, yes, I struggle with this, we're working, and of course it was World Mental Health Day.
Yeah.
But people really struggle with that thing and understanding it's just a part of who we are. It's not who we are, but when we have as people come out and talk more about it, I think that awareness, and 2023, we shouldn't be still having these conversations around mental health or the stigmas around it.
Yeah.
Because we have very successful people who still have mental health issues, but it's trying to get people, that are recognized in public to talk about it and not in those negative ways. And I think sometimes the media twists some of that stuff around and
Oh, 100%. They definitely twist things. It's super frustrating to watch. Just kind of being in, having our platforms, and even when we do different interviews and stuff, and if it's a written interview, the way that they can just kind of take your words and twist it, like it becomes extremely frustrating. And like Tecia said, for me, with using my platform, like I've always been huge into like, I want to inspire people, Like I was blessed with these cards and to be able to do something that I'm extremely passionate about. And kids mean everything to me. I remember being a young athlete and, I looked up to one of the WNBA players and went and seen her. They did a USA basketball game at the Olympic Training Center. My mom took me over there and she couldn't even take 2 seconds to take a photo with her fans or do anything. There was all these young kids, including myself. And I was just like, oh man, when I become that person, like I'm going to take time and do everything. And, there's been UFC signings that I'm at and they're like, Pennington, like your time's up. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll get off the stage and I like to go stand in the crowd and still sign those autographs because just, putting a smile on somebody's face, seeing those little kids, the way it like impacts them. Those are going to be things that like truly like they remember and they're inspired by. And with my experience on The Ultimate Fighter, like people just being scared to talk and do everything. I remember The Ultimate Fighter was like a huge growing process for me. I really got to spread my wings. I come from a huge family. It feels like we all live under one roof. We know everything about each other. And like, we never spoke about like being gay or anything. Like my Nina always kind of pushed on my mom and was like, you need to look at your daughter. And my mom was just like, she's a tomboy. And like, yes, I'm a tomboy. Like the way that I am has nothing to do with like my sexual orientation or anything like that. Like just tomboy, I am who I am. I'm athletic. And my Nina just kept pushing. She's like, no, there's something different about her. So I remember like my mom and I had multiple conversations. And back then, like I was scared to talk about it. So I would lie and like try to find my way out of it. I had a little boyfriend to cover things up. And like, it was just the whole thing. And when I went to The Ultimate Fighter, I remember the producer came in. He's like, hey, like I have a gay brother who, sorry, I'm late. He tried to commit suicide today. Like, is anybody here willing to talk about their stories? And like, I didn't have family like surrounding me, talking to me or like that fear. And I was like, I will. And I remember when they started airing our season and like my episode was coming out, we had a huge get together and it was just crickets in the house. And my family was like, I remember my mom was just, she's my best friend, my biggest supporter, like always been there. But for her to like come at me, like it was really hard and we had our ups and downs, but she was just like, you disrespected your grandparents. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't disrespect anybody. I respected myself. And it was just all out of fear. And that's what a lot of this comes to with anybody, it's just fear and the way society is. And I think after that moment and that my life went public and stuff and the responses I was getting fan mail from like 75 years old and below sharing their life stories and like how they were inspired and how they've lived an entire life of a lie. And like, it's amazing to see somebody step up and all this. And as soon as like I passed that along to my family, it became a different world for me. And like, I became 100% confident in like my own skin, like just, all my loved ones, like they support me. And not everybody is like blessed with that, but it took time, it took struggle. And I think it's really important to like use the platform. And that's what I like doing. I like inspiring people who are stopped by that fear or by too many people talking, and they're so worried about those people's opinions, or just the younger kids out there. Like,
Well, and I think that's something that part of my practice is I do a lot of the LGBTQ plus community. And even in that, when they first come into my office, and sometimes you can see that anxiety in them. And I'm always like, what y'all anxious about? Well, I want to tell you stuff. And I'm thinking, I'm a therapist. People tell me all sorts of stuff. I don't think it's going to be anything I haven't heard, but I've been surprised every once in a while. In 20 plus years, you get a little bit every once in a while. And they'll say that, and I'll say, oh, okay. And then it's so funny because she used to work we had another office, so she would be up front. And so I would always go back and we would talk about the schedule and stuff, but I would go around the back of the desk. And I found it so interesting when I would get in there, she's all entertained by the baby. She's not even paying attention anymore. But it was funny because one of my clients asked me one day, she was a little girl, very observant. She goes, Miss Sharon, she goes, you have a very pretty ring. And I says, oh, well, thank you, baby. She goes, can I see it closer? And I go, well, of course you can. So she comes up and she gets my finger and she's looking at my ring and she starts spinning it, and I said, and she goes, Miss Sharon, how come Miss Christie has your ring?
very observant. Wow.
It was kind of a religious family. I looked over at the grandma and she goes, like, I said, well, honey, because Miss Christie's my wife. And she goes, that's why you wear the same ring? And I said, yeah. She goes, oh, well, it's nice. And then she goes about her business, but I think that it's putting people at ease with that and understanding that there has to be role models. There has to be people who these kids can look up to and not feel afraid.
Absolutely. It's crazy. Like we had a similar situation. Well, we've had like a couple of situations. Like we just started taking Alea to swim classes, and like for Tecia and I, we're comfortable in our relationship. We're very open and public about everything and whatnot. But like, I still have my curiosity. Like, I'm just curious to see how the world's going to like perceive the fact that we're two women, we have a baby or whatnot. And everybody's like, they'll look at Alea and they're like, we don't understand how she like looks like you just because Tecia carried. And it's like, man, like the knowledge and stuff that's like just not out there to people. Like they just, the perceptions and everything. But then at swim class, it was just like, you have your typical family. And so we're like, we wonder how they're going to like look at us when we're introduced and stuff and whatnot. And it's just like the curiosities to that. And then, we were actually with one of our coaches and his young daughters. They're 5 and 4 or 4 and 3, I think, something like that. But they don't really understand. And it's like, you as a person and like a friend, and then as a parent, like, I don't want to cross lines. So the same way that you were just like waiting for a blessing, like we're like, hey, can you kind of step in here? Because she was like, well, who's baby? Or like, you're her mommy? And Ticia's like, yeah, I'm her mommy, and so is she. And she's like, well, where's the daddy? Trying to explain certain things. And it was just like, and he finally stepped up and he's like, it's not something you have to worry about right now. But we went home that day and like, she just kept being very pushy. She kept asking differently. And we're like, baby, some babies have 2 mommies, some babies have 2 daddies, some have a mommy and daddy, some don't have parents. Like there's different things out there. And I said, but what is important is that you need to know that she's very loved by 2 people. And she's like, oh, okay, so you guys are her 2 mommies and the daddy's just not around. And we're like, we'll just leave it however her little mind takes it right now. But I thought about it all evening, and then we went home that night and we talked about it. And it was just like, it's interesting how different kids or like, parents or like even us, like, how do we kind of approach certain situations? And having Alea now, like, we're just learning to navigate, and, our nephews, they got into this habit this past summer, and the family just kind of joked about it, but you know, they see us having a baby now, and Ticia's more girly and whatnot, and then I'm tomboy, and so they started calling me Uncle Rocky out of nowhere, and we're like, it's Auntie Rocky, and they're like, what? And like they seen me as like a boy because now, and so like trying to like teach their mind frames or something. And then this past weekend we were camping, and our little cousin did the same thing, and she's like, babe, she thinks you're a boy now, and she was saying that I'm a boy and all this stuff, and it was just like, we got to let them be, and eventually, like, you know, they can learn and stuff, but it's interesting to still try to navigate.
It's so funny because their brains work so different. I worked at a school, and I was there one day, and my hair was, I don't know. I looked like a boy that day, but the little girl comes up, so you're a boy. I go, I'm a girl. You're a boy. I'm a girl. You're a boy. I'm a girl. I told her I'm a girl. And so she pauses, and then she looks up at me and she goes, well, those are mighty big shoes for a girl. I was wearing boots that day. And I didn't know what it was. She was identifying as boy, but it was my shoes.
Oh my God.
But that's the whole thing, is that kids, especially in this arena, I think it's so interesting. I work a lot with the autism spectrum as well. And I have this kid, he was one of my clients, and he was a teenager, but he wanted me to teach him about, he tells me what I had to teach him in the session. He goes, I need you to teach me everything you can about women. I said, oh, honey, we don't have enough time for that. He goes, well, just a little bit. So anyway, so he's walking out one day, and he comes running back, and he opens the door, and I'm standing in the foyer singing, Miss Sharon, Miss Sharon. I go, what? He goes, you and I are alike. And I'm thinking,
We both like girls.
and he did, but I'm thinking, well, he didn't know it. I didn't know that he knew at that point, but the grandma must have told him. And that's when he goes, we both like girls, and I'm going to learn all about them. Turns around, he runs off. But they do. If we let them, they will process things. They understand it better than we think. Once again, you talked about those voices, and it's a lot of that talk that takes place, and it's trying to shut it down. But I also think, and one of the things I really promote a lot in the LGBTQ plus community is when you come out, oftentimes the other person's reaction, if they have a negative reaction, we have to show them a little bit of grace. And we have to let them move forward. Wouldn't you agree?
And give them that opportunity.
Because they eventually go,
They
"Our
eventually
mom."
come around.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk much for about a year, but then, yeah,
Well,
it
her
got
mom,
better.
very religious, she was a minister,
Yeah.
and so it was very hard for her. And even the day we got married, kind of,
I got an email.
Wow.
I know what you're doing today.
An email.
Yeah.
but and it was one of those things, it's like the ball's now in your court, whatever you decide to do with it, and it was a gradual progression, and it's a phase.
It takes time. Ticia's mom did that, she was just kind of like, it's a phase, and she has her own struggle with her sister, and then my family, like, I'm so thankful that they've come around, but for the longest time, my Nina was like, hey, I have this boy who wants to meet you, hey this, and would constantly push, and it's like, you clearly, my girlfriend was just hanging out with us, like, when are you going to ever get to that point? But I think the problem is like, we're born into a society from the second we're born, like, this is what life looks like, this is how it should be. And we're constantly like teaching the same things. So now that times are changing or things are more openly out there, like, it is hard. And, the way that I see it, like you said, there's going to be negative reactions, and like, you do have to give people grace and give them time. And like, some people just, they adapt. There's other people out there, when their negative like comments come out or whatever it is, sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Like, I've learned that a lot of them, they're very negative to begin with. And then years later, it was their own internal struggle, but then they were battling with the same situation. They just didn't know how to handle it. And it was a front that they were putting on. So there's a lot of different things out there, but I think, the thing that I always preach to people is just staying true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, like, we all have one life to live, and you need to live it to what's going to be your fullest potential and what's going to fill your heart. And the more that you try to please other people, like, you're always going to fail somewhere. But as long as you're pleasing yourself every single day and loving yourself and confident in who you are, That's all that truly matters.
Exactly.
So this is kind of to tie it into that. If it's too personal, you just tell me. Do you feel like some of that mental health piece for you was the sexuality struggle?
No, not
Okay.
really. Because prior to Raquel, I had only dated guys. I mean, I've always liked women my entire life, but I never like pulled the trigger or anything like that. Like I tell her, like I can remember like third grade the girl I liked, fifth grade the girl I liked, sixth grade the girl I liked. You know, the girls I thought were cute before her.
And I'm like, you just decided to get smart.
In high school, I was on the soccer team, and like in high school, that's when a lot of people are experimenting. Like, unfortunately, a lot of the girls experimented within each other in the soccer team and stuff like that. And this girl's dating that girl, then it was the other girl on the team. I did not participate in any of that, but I was very curious to it and everything. But fast forward, right before her, and I don't know, like I've known her since 2012. We both fought for Invicta. That's the all-female promotion, still kicking and going strong. I was making my pro debut, and she was fighting, I think, like her second or third pro fight. And so we met then, and then over the first 4 years we knew each other, just fighter friends. We'd hang out sometimes. She'd text me like, oh, I'm gonna be at this event, we'll link up or whatever.
With her and her boyfriend.
She did once go to dinner with me and her boyfriend. Yes, she did. And I was very interested in her then, like just talking to her and stuff like that. Like I kind of ignored him, and I thought like, because I knew that she was gay, so I thought like she was shitting on me, but she denies it. But I think she was, but I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh man, like I think she, likes me. She's trying to tell me to come to Colorado and see her and stuff.
You know what I'm talking about?
And then fast
Their
forward
own things inside
to
them.
16, the next year, 16, she hit me up saying, hey, I'm gonna be here. So we hung out. And funny because she was just getting out of a relationship. We won't get into it, but her girlfriend at the time, or ex-girlfriend, ended up showing up in the fights or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's your girlfriend? She's like, no, we broke up. I was like, cool. All right, whatever. But I started liking her that weekend. I wanted to be close to her. And the girl was only there the first night. And then she left. And I was like, all right, since you guys aren't together, I mean, like, I just started talking to her or whatever. And then she's like, come visit me if you're serious. And the next weekend, I had a plane ticket to Colorado. I'd never been to Colorado before, but shit, before I left, I was like, are we gonna be exclusive? Like, what's happening?
Like, I was wasting no time.
Like, what's going on?
I looked at her and I was like, what? And she's like, I want to be exclusive. And I was like, I mean, okay. Like, where are we going from here? You live in Florida, I live in Colorado, or I don't know. Tisha's way of flirting with me. She pinched my Mexi roll, and I'm like, what are you doing, my little
I
Mexi?
don't remember that.
And I was like, and then after that, it was funny, but yeah.
It is always funny when, you tell the stories, because there's always a different version.
Oh yeah.
A slight
Yeah.
discrepancy.
I keep telling her she was flirting with me and doing all sorts of things. I was not.
I know.
How did you guys meet?
Tisha to come train, and she's like, "You were flirting with me. Just admit it." And I was like, "I really wasn't. Your boyfriend was sitting there. You guys were eating hamburgers. Like, I was just inviting you to come train in high altitude. That was it."
Yeah.
We met, my mom was actually her landlord.
Oh, okay. Here in Colorado?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And her mom actually told me, would you please ask my daughter to hang out? I don't like the guy she's dating.
Befriend her.
Befriend her. And they're like, well,
So that
this is
they're
kind of
not
weird. I
hanging
said,
out.
she doesn't even talk.
It sounds like she probably went through a phase of regret herself after you befriended her.
I don't know how much regret.
Yeah.
But
She was
man,
kicking herself for a while.
yeah. And then she would just keep telling her it's a phase. And then I would tease her later on, because her mom and I get along well. And what's it? Hey, are we still in a phase? It's been 20 years. Phase still?
Yeah.
And I think the thing is it's so cool, because when relationships grow organically like that, it's such a different thing, because prior to the relationship, you had already established that friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And how much do you think that plays a role in your successful relationship right now? You're successful.
I think it's extremely important. I tell Tisha all the time, like, I feel like a healthy relationship is just a best friendship set on fire. And so I feel like having that foundation, learning each other, knowing each other as people, and then building into that next phase of something more romantic, I think really plays a huge part, as opposed to like, I think our biggest struggle was, one, we did struggle. I was probably more pushy with Tisha on her mental health than what she was ready for at points, because I seen struggle. I'm a very observant person. Like my friends and my family has always told me I should be a counselor instead. That was like a struggle that we were having, just because it was like, like be comfortable in your own skin, like look in the mirror, see what's kind of going on. And then I think the next biggest struggle for us was living together. That's hard. Like it's hard trying to figure out that dynamic. But we went from being friends, fellow fighters, like having some sort of foundation into a romantic place. And then we just had, the different struggles that come with that, as opposed to previous relationships I've had, like the ones that have just absolutely crashed and burned. We're just, we thought we were cuties and like, let's go. And then you learn each other and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. As opposed to like, her being now my wife and then my longest relationship back in the day, like it all was based off of friendship. So.
And I think that's really, and I think what's kind of cool is UFC is, I love when they talk about it, because I always love that when we're watching and they're always saying, and then when they showed you in the crowd at your last fight when you won and showing her all pregnant and stuff. Well, there's Tecia, she's right there with you. So, and it's really cool. And, they talk a lot, they talked about when you guys had the baby and stuff. So it seems like a very open environment for that.
They are, it's like when we fought together on it was the first card we fought on Invicta fights together and stuff. But when we fought for the first card in UFC, we asked them, can we fight with the rainbow colors
in June.
For Pride Month, and then on top of that to represent the community. And there was no questions. Like they were like, nah, Dana's gonna have to approve it. So I just called Dana and said, hey, here's our idea. And he's like, I freaking love it. Absolutely. And now like it's a regular thing. Every Pride Month, the athletes have the opportunity, if they want to choose the rainbow colors, and they can fight and represent. And that's the other thing, like you were saying, the commentators and stuff, they're very like, they'll sit back, and when we go do like pre-fight like conversations, they'll talk to us, catch up on the things, so that way they can like announce different things when we're walking out or whatever. And like they're just so supportive of our relationship and the things that bring us happiness. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's interesting. You look at a sport that, when Dana said women weren't going to be in it.
How times have changed.
Yeah. Which is really interesting, because it's really a very open thing, and then when we're not going to have women, then women come in, and then just the support around the LGBTQ plus community. Well, LGBT, we'll see where we're at there. But do you see what I mean? And so for you guys, it has to feel like not so bad going to work, so to speak, because you're not this uphill battle that you're fighting as far as what the organization you work for is saying about you. Or
yeah, they're very open with everybody, and like Dana White is very blunt with things, and he'd be like, I don't care who you are, I don't care your sexuality, I don't care your race, anything like that. Like, shit, if you're a great fighter, you're gonna fight for my organization, I appreciate the openness about that.
I mean, I feel like if he worked off of his like opinion and his own beliefs, like he wouldn't have an organization. You know what I mean? Like, he's very much so. He talks crap all the time. We're together. I love art. I love ink. And he's just like, wait till you're old. You ain't gonna be able to read that. And like, he personally just doesn't like tattoos. Everybody has their own opinions and ways, but like, I don't care.
I don't even understand that. Who doesn't like tattoos?
Yeah. And so like,
that's crazy.
It's interesting. Like, I feel like, he's been smart, and like at the end of the day, like he's a businessman, but a lot of people don't give him credit for his heart as well. He is very supportive of, and like Tecia said, like, it's just one of those things that like, I do not care who you are. Like, you're talented, and like, that's what we're going to show to the world, but be you.
Right. I think one of the other things is, when we get back to the mental health piece, we're seeing more and more athletes. I don't think it's that they didn't have the mental health issues. I think we're just seeing more and more athletes who are being honest about the struggles that they're having. We've had a lot of really major athletes come out and say, this is crazy. I can't do this. And there's a lot of pressure, because you're right. It's a business. They want people who are winning and showing up and doing what they have to do. And, that is an added pressure on top of the pressures you already have. How much does that play a part with you two?
In terms of pressure just to like perform stuff?
To perform and to perform well.
Oh yeah. Like, unfortunately, today you're the hot commodity, the next day you're not, you know, like people will, like when Ronda Rousey was around, they're on the bandwagon. She's winning, then all of a sudden she's losing. Then they're like, gosh, Ronda Rousey ain't shit, you know. But just yesterday they were like, oh, I'm the Ronda Rousey fan, blah blah blah. Unfortunately,
highs, lowest,
yeah, you know, like unfortunately there are fans that are stick with you through everything. But then there's the fans that are just the ones who jump on the bandwagon for whoever's, you know, hot at the moment. So yeah, for us, I feel like every fight you're kind of fighting to keep your spot. You know, at any point you can be cut from the roster. Doesn't matter really who you are. I mean, look at what's the heavyweight fighter, babe? The really good Ngannou. Francis Ngannou. Like he is the shit. He fights really, really well, you know, and then Thanos like, hey, you know, like if you don't want this contract ain't working for you, bye. You know, like he's not gonna, there'll be another superstar coming out, you know. So yeah, kind of, you know, you're only as great as your last fight, really, you know.
And this is more towards you with Amanda retiring. You know, when I listened to a lot of different women in that weight division, so a lot of them say, well, now we feel like that really opens it up for more, you know, more people to get that championship. Because she's kind of an anomaly to me. She is so good. She really is. Because you were going to go, your mentality was, I'm going to go fight for that title, regardless of who holds that title. You know, what was that like for you, for Amanda to retire because it's in your weight class?
Honestly, so as a person and as a friend, I mean, Amanda and Nina are two of Ticia's best friends. And, you know, I've known Amanda since the Invicta days, and my family's always been a huge supporter of her. And then vice versa, she's been a big supporter of me and stuff. And it's just kind of one of those things when it comes down to it, we have to, you know, we met because of the sport and we fight. But it's funny when they cry how they fighting the shit.
I know.
I'm like, to see what she's accomplished and everything that she's done, you know, I'm super happy for her. She's done everything that you can possibly do, and she is extremely talented. And so that's super cool. As a fellow competitor, like I definitely feel in my heart that I could beat Amanda, you know, given the way that the fight played out, like, and being super injured and stuff. I was the first chick before that. Nobody went to the 5th round with her. And so like being injured and stuff, like I feel like as a competitor, like I was like, no, like stay here. Like I want my chance to redeem myself or whatever. But that's the thing, like it is super hard, you know. The whole thing that got mixed up with my fight last January, I fought Ketlen Vera. That was supposed to be a #1 contender fight. Then all of a sudden they're like, well, we're going to do the trilogy between Amanda and Juliana. And it's like, who the heck wants to see that? Like, we all know that Amanda, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and they're like, love Juliana or hate her, you know, everybody likes seeing her get beat up for 5 rounds. Okay, if that's what you guys say, then like whatever. But like as an athlete, it's super frustrating. There was still that run, you know, but then now that she kind of stepped back and there's no reason for a trilogy fight or any of this other stuff, it does give us other athletes the opportunity. Because I mean, you have so many people busting their butt and trying to climb that ladder. So.
And that was kind of the thing I was saying, is it's kind of, we're doing this repeat, you know what I mean? And we've seen it with Valentina as well and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's an exciting time. I mean, we're super excited. I feel like, you know, even after, because you've won, what's your last 4 or 5?
5-fight streak.
Yes. So I don't understand that you're winning. Why aren't you? But you know, that's a whole other story.
I think for me, like, I think for me, you know, I obviously wanted the opportunity. Amanda's known as the freaking GOAT. And so it's like, you know, to go out there and beat that person and like what it does for, you know, the accomplishment, the perception of it all, like just all the different things, like that's something different. So like, I do miss the idea of that opportunity being presented, but I mean, it does open a door. There is a ton of other talent out there, but I will say I do like the same thing when Ronda retired. Like it was like, okay, you're known as the great of great right now, and like you said, there's always going to be that new talent that comes along. Amanda was the new one, but exactly. That's what I'm like, the idea I'm gonna miss. But I'm super excited. 5-fight win streak, like world title should be next. So
I agree. And, you know, Tecia, you're getting ready to do the stuff you have to get back in the ring. And you really do feel like you're ready for that, to move back up the ranks.
Yes.
What would you like your first fight to be? You know, when you look at that, you know, do you want like a top 15?
ideally, I'd like a top 15 person. Just 'cause I want to get back in the rankings. If it didn't happen, that's fine. I'd love a tune-up fight, but they don't give me that. I've fought all the champions in the division, and that's unfortunately all my losses, all the champions. And I'm only a fighter who's fought all the champions.
I know that's kind of interesting. 'Cause,
Yeah.
You know,
Really weird. Gratefully, they go in there, they kill some girls. I've gotten out of there with, a black eye maybe. But yeah, a top 15 fight would be good. Maybe someone between like 7 and 15, just so I can get back in there and get my name back on the roster. But if it wasn't someone ranked, I'd be fine with that too. I just want to, by the time I fight, it's going to be 2 years. So
yeah. Okay. So we're going to finish out with fun facts. Okay. So listen to the questions, ladies. If you were doing the hot sauce challenge, which one of you would tap out first?
Oh, 100%.
Well, look at
100%. Yeah, she's done down in Essex Park. They have like this is it it's
I don't know what it is. It's a hot sauce place, but
The
you
hot
couldn't
sauce
drop
place,
on
yeah.
there. I couldn't find like enough bread
and hit her like a few minutes later.
I was drinking Coke,
Yeah.
like every.
I would never even do that. So definitely me.
okay.
Do either of you have any hidden talents?
I
wanna know.
have a party trick. I can name the 50 states in alphabetical order.
Wow. Check that out. And what about you?
Hidden talent?
I'm about hitting. You're pretty good at everything.
Okay. So the other thing is, if there was a TikTok dance challenge, which one of you would be the most apt to do the dance and record it on TikTok?
Oh, me, 100%.
Absolutely.
Wait,
I'm very shy.
When TikTok, I don't know when it first came around, but the first time we started using it was during COVID. Easter weekend, like a friend was like, "Oh, try this," and then I kind of got addicted. But we started trying to do all the dances, and the one that we could not get was the like kind of techno beats where you would like move your feet and do all the, you know what I'm talking about, like
Yeah.
the moonwalk type thing. We could not get that.
Okay, and then the last one is who changes the most your dirty dumpers?
100% me too.
Wow, that's all because she wakes up in the middle of the night because she's the source of food right now. But before that, like I'm the one that changed the diapers at the beginning too. She's like, she's funny story. Like she gags, like she like couldn't pick up her dog poop and stuff. So I was like, hey, can you get those first few diapers? Girl, you have a lot to say to everybody.
I know. Well, you know what, you guys, this has been so much fun. We are so grateful that you joined us. And,
Yeah.
there's so much information, so much more information we could talk about, the stuff that you guys do. Not just in the octagon, but all that you do out here. And, for those that don't know, Raquel, you're a native of Colorado Springs.
I am.
So how is that for you to represent Colorado? I always think it's cool when they say, and from Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
I'm super prideful. I love Colorado. I take a lot of pride in this state, and like Tecia hears about it all the time and stuff. So just to represent, I will say being a native, like it makes it extremely hard watching this place grow so much. Like it is devastating to me, but that's the world, right? Things are always changing.
Always change.
Well, we kind of have to adapt to everything that's
Yeah.
going on. So it'd be a little different raising her here too, because it's not the tiny place that you.
Yeah, I really, I feel like I've turned Tecia into a mountain girl and more like less away from the city. And so like we made a deal, like I want to buy a bunch of land and we want to build our forever home, but further into the mountains. Like I just like small town, like just I would rather raise a land like with, different things than besides being in the city. There's nothing wrong with that, but just the way I was raised and the opportunities I had before this place just grew up so much. So our deal is at least Walmart or Target has to be within 30 minutes for Tecia. But then, Alea can grow up like freaking riding 4-wheelers, learning how to hunt, fish, hike, do all the things that like I grew up doing.
How would that work for you, sweetie?
Really?
I can't be too far in the mountain. I gotta be kind of close.
We
to
were 30
something.
minutes from Walmart. she was there like, oh my God, what do you do here? Because I'm from the southern part of Colorado. So I'm from down
okay.
by Alamosa.
All right. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, she was the, bless her. She's not. She's a city girl. And then it was like, what did you do? What did you say? What was it? She called it purgatory.
We were there for 10 years.
I'm not even going to hold it against her. Purgatory, mind you. We were doing fun things. She's now into hiking and things like
I
that.
do.
You know,
Yeah.
but-
You change your
but
mind.
man, I tell you, this is what happens.
Tisha, this weekend, we went camping this past weekend, and I was like, all right, you're not there yet, but you still got some learning to do, because this girl acted like we needed Walmart out there while we were camping. And then on top of that, like our camper van, she blew up like we had an entire kitchen and used every dish. And I'm like, girl, we don't have enough water out here to be doing this. Like, you still got some stuff to learn. You got to learn how to live off the land a little bit. I grew up being a hunter and fisher. I just came back from a huge hunting trip in Alaska with caribou. Like during my camp, I eat nothing but lean meat, deer, elk, all that stuff. And so, you know, I'm trying to break Tisha into that. And I even like made some great breakfast sausage, spiced it up the way that it was like Jimmy Dean who, and Tisha just like mentally, like no, she like barely let it like touch her mouth and was like spitting, and it's like, all right, like you still have a couple more years before we move into the mountains and live off our land.
Oh, well, you better get working on that is what I'm hearing.
Caribou's not for me.
A little too gamey for you?
Yes.
Okay, see, there you go.
I can do
No,
elk.
that's okay.
Like elk's good.
Elk,
Elk and bison are probably too.
elk, deer.
It's a mental thing, honestly. It's like mom came here to visit and we took her out and we got her an elk burger. This woman was drooling over her burger and was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Bragging it up the whole time. And we're like, just stay quiet. And then she gets done and she's like, Tisha, that was the best burger I've ever eaten. And Tisha's like, yeah, you really liked it? Well, guess what? It was elk. Oh my gosh, it ruined her whole evening. She hated the burger. It was just like, it was a mind frame.
Right.
It is, but I have to tell you this, you know, growing up, my family hunted. And so my dad had a deer one day. So we had it out in our big cellar and he's skinning it. So I'm out there helping him, right? Well, she walks in and she turned around, she walks out. And my dad looks and goes, well, what's wrong with her? I said, well, I don't know. He goes, well, you better go check on her. So I go out there and I go, and she's standing outside. And I go, what is wrong? She goes,
No,
how can you handle that smell? And I go, what
I
smell?
don't know anything. Yeah.
He freaking ruined me. I turned around, walked back in, and I smelled it.
This one, she always asks me,
there
she's like, when am I going hunting with you? I'm like, well, for one, you got to learn to walk quieter. So, fail. For two, I don't know if we can pack enough snacks and things to keep you entertained because she gets pretty impatient. And then for three, like, what are you going to do when you're going to have to help me drag it and like gut it and clean it? And she's like, can I just skip that part? I'm like, you could just stay home.
There you go. See, this is what we're telling you, people. You learn to compromise in relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
You're
you.
You know, for everybody out there, we hope that you have an amazing week. We will be back next week. Please stay tuned. And remember to be the role model for the people out there. If you have something, share it. And we look forward to
Next time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.